side. I didn't get to choose which one is the wrong that side. I'm moving forward. I'm no longer in the cracks, no longer on the railroad tracks. I'm moving to the front. I don't belong way in the back. Onward.
Hey guys, what's up? Thanks so much for tuning in this week for another episode of the BMuz Reviews podcast. I'm your host, Brandon Musica. As always, we're going to analyze, review, and discuss the latest news and dive into the past regarding movies, music, video games, and much, much more. If you don't already, be sure to follow us on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter at BMuz Reviews, and tune into the BMuz Reviews podcast each week on Spotify, Anchor, Google Podcasts, and all other streaming platforms. If you're watching on YouTube, we thank you so much for tuning in. Please be sure to like, subscribe, leave a comment below, and to hit the bell icon to receive notifications that informs you exactly when our podcast goes live, as well as all other video content. Also, be sure to visit our website at www.musicaprojects.com. There you will find all important links to our latest podcast episodes, new projects currently available, and also previews of those currently in development, along with our latest blog posts. If there's a question or a topic that you'd like us to discuss on the podcast, send them to bmuzreviews@gmail.com with podcast question/topic in the subject line. With all that out of the way, let's not waste any more time and get right to this week's news. Welcome everyone to the BMuz Reviews podcast.
Alrighty, everybody, welcome back to BMuz Reviews. Thanks for tuning in to a very special episode where we're going to preview and predict the winners of this year's Academy Awards. This year marks the 95th Academy Awards ceremony. And before we get to that, we just got a few film reviews to get to. First film review today is for Jesus Revolution. Recently got a chance to see Jesus Revolution in theaters. If you're not familiar with the film specifically, it depicts the true story of a national spiritual awakening in the early 1970s and its origins within a community of teenage hippies in Southern California. I gotta tell you, I really enjoyed this film. I wasn't sure what to expect going into it. I'm history buff by nature, and so when a film is based in reality, when I know a film is based on events that took place, I'm automatically curious what went into that situation and ultimately how it affected everyone involved. And so with this film specifically, I found it to be really inspiring and well crafted. The film offers a really sincere and heartfelt look into the true events of the Jesus movement that took place in the early 1970s. I highly recommend checking this film out in theaters if you have not done so already. This film is playing everywhere nationwide, and I really enjoyed the film. I got to tell you, Jesus Revolution, playing everywhere. Definitely be sure to check this one out. All right, and for our next film review today, recently got a chance to see Scream 6 in theaters. Got to see Scream 6 opening night. I could not wait to attend this screening. Scream 6, the next installment in the Scream franchise. In this film, the survivors of the Ghostface killings leave Woodsboro behind and start a fresh chapter in New York City. This film stars Courtney Cox, Melissa Barrera, Jenna Ortega, Mason Gooding, Jasmine Savoy Brown, Samara Weaving, Jack Champion, Josh Segarra, and Hayden Panettiere. I absolutely loved this film. As a diehard fan of this franchise, I mean, the film provides literally everything that you could want. The ensemble cast is fantastic. The score adds dashes of nostalgia throughout the film. You have the classic Dewey theme that pops up in the background between character dialogue, as well as Red Right Hand by Nick Cave. A lot of cool music that pops up in this film, and a lot of homage paid to specifically the first two films. There are so many subtle little Easter eggs that are like, little tidbits back to the first two, especially. With the students being in college now, the main characters being in college, like in the first two films, going from high school and then the year after going to college. It's
pretty interesting how the movies themselves in reality are mirroring the content within it. So it's like a meta within a meta universe it's creating. It's a whole flux. But with that being said, man, the kills in this movie, bruh, the kills in this movie are vicious. Hands down, got to be the most brutal Ghostface that we've seen to date. Provides just some of the goriest kills that we've seen in any of the installments so far. Also want to mention about the core four: Melissa Barrera, Jenna Ortega, Mason Gooding, Jasmine Savoy Brown. The core four, absolute gem. Absolute gem. Love the core four. Courtney Cox also returning as Gail Weathers, and the element of New York being introduced in this film. Really, I thought it was a nice, fresh take for the sixth installment as this franchise just continues to grow. And with the fifth one making as much money as it did when they weren't sure on how it was going to do, overwhelmingly so in January, just like really just surprised everyone, took January by storm last year in 2022, and really propelled them to make this sixth sequel right away. They greenlit the movie, got it filmed, and honestly, this film is already projected to make well more than the fifth one did. And with that being said, I can definitely see them doing a seventh one, and I hope that they do, because as a fan of the Scream franchise, I just am tremendously grateful that has even continued to the point of a sixth film. But also, many would argue that this film is just as good as when the franchise originally began. That is not easy to do. It's a true testament to the creative minds behind these films, the gentlemen that are behind these films now, from the previous film, the fifth film, and now this film. I mean, they know what they're doing. They have a great formula. They have a great cast, and the future is very bright for this franchise. I cannot wait to see where it goes from here. If you haven't already, be sure to check this film out. I'm not going to say anything more about it. I cannot wait for the next installment. Like I said, just this chance to see Ghostface on the big screen again. I will definitely be seeing this film in theaters more than once. There's always like small, subtle aspects in character movement and language I feel that it's easy to miss, especially in the first time while watching these films. And I always like to have fun trying to pick up on them. So I'm definitely going to be sure to check this film out multiple times. With that being said, be sure to grab as many friends, though, as possible. Go see this in a packed, sold-out theater this weekend. That's the way that films like Scream 6 were meant to be seen. And when you do get a chance to see the film, be sure to write to me. Let me know your thoughts. With the 95th Academy Awards ceremony taking place this Sunday, I want to take a brief moment to inform you guys about the new book from author Lorie Kleiner Eckert entitled Love, Loss, and Moving On. The book is part memoir, part unauthorized biography of Bill Nye, part flight of fancy, and loads of fun. What better way to reflect on the marvelous career of Bill Nye while also celebrating the miraculous achievement of earning a nomination as Best Actor in a Lead Role at this year's Academy Awards. You can purchase Love, Loss, and Moving On directly on Amazon, and be sure to check out Eckert's website at www.loriekleinereckert.com. That's www.loriekleinereckert.com.
All right, and we have finally made it to our Oscars preview and predictions. But first, just want to make a quick mention that on our social media pages, specifically Instagram and Twitter, as well as in the description of the podcast episode, you can find the link to enter for the BMuz Reviews Pick'em for the 95th Academy Awards specifically. The rules are just to be subscribed on both YouTube and on Twitter, and follow us on Instagram, and simply submit your picks before the deadline, which is March 12th at 7:59 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. As so much, thank you so much for your support, and best of luck to you all. All right, with that out of the way, let's get right to our picks for this year's Oscars. Kicking off with what is my favorite categories, personally, cinematography. This year's nominees for cinematography are James Friend for All Quiet on the Western Front, Darius Khondji, Bardo, False Chronicle of a Handful of Truths, Mandy Walker for Elvis, Roger Deakins, Empire of Light, Florian Hofmeister, Tar. And for my pick for cinematography, I got to go with Roger Deakins. Roger Deakins is my absolute favorite cinematographer, so I am a little biased in this pick. However, with seeing all these films, it's really a toss-up. All Quiet on the Western Front, definitely be a runner for this. All these nominations are truly deserved. It's so hard to pick. If I had to go with my gut, I'm going to say Roger Deakins for Empire of Light. Our next category, Music Original Score. For this category specifically, our nominees are Volker Bertelmann, All Quiet on the Western Front, Justin Hurwitz, Babylon, Carter Burwell, The Banshees of Inisherin, Sun Lux, Everything Everywhere All at Once, John Williams, The Fabelmans. For my pick for Music Original Score, I'm going to go with Justin Hurwitz for Babylon. Absolutely amazing score. Walking out of the theater after seeing this film, I was blown away by the score of this film. It kept me engaged with the film. It's a long film. It's almost 3 hours long. This score specifically stuck with me throughout the entire film. And after watching it, I think I listened to this score on repeat for a good 2 weeks after seeing this film. It's great. If you have not heard it already, highly recommend checking it out, and highly recommend checking out the film as well. Justin Hurwitz, Babylon, definitely my pick for Music Original Score. For our next category, we have Writing, Adapted Screenplay. Our nominees are All Quiet on the Western Front, Glass Onion, A Knives Out Mystery, Living, Top Gun Maverick, and Women Talking. My pick for Writing, Adapted Screenplay is going to go to Top Gun Maverick. This film blew audiences, critics, studios, the entire film industry away with not only what it was able to do in the box office, but what it was able to do on screen as well. For an adapted screenplay, all sequels are automatically categorized as an adapted screenplay based on being adapted on previous works, in this case a sequel. Out of all these films, all tremendous, love them all, but got to go with the gut as always. Top Gun Maverick, my pick for Writing, Adapted Screenplay. All right, our next category, Writing Original Screenplay. Our nominees for this category are The Banshees of Inisherin, Everything Everywhere All at Once, The Fabelmans, Tar, and Triangle of Sadness. Out of all these films, my pick for Best Writing Original Screenplay would have to go to The Banshees of Inisherin. I absolutely loved this film, and I know many audiences and critics were in agreement with this. This film is, I think, going to be the dark horse for this year's Academy Awards. I don't know that for sure. Just, again, going with my gut when it's saying that. I just feel that this film is going to be this year's dark horse and could steal a lot of the categories. But going with my pick here, The Banshees of Inisherin takes home the Oscar for Best Original Screenplay. Next category, we have Best Animated Feature Film. For our nominees in this category, we have Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio, Marcel the Shell with Shoes On, Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, The Sea Beast, and Turning Red. Out of all these films, it's tough to say. I think it'll definitely come down to Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio and Marcel the Shell with Shoes On. If I got to go with my gut, I'm going to go with Marcel the Shell with Shoes On. I loved this film so much. This is an adorable film. If you haven't already, be sure to check this film out. It's a truly wonderful film. It's not long at all. I think it runs actually under an hour and a half. It's fantastic. It has so much heart, and it's very, very creative as well. Absolutely loved it, and definitely one that I would watch again, and I would definitely make it my pick for animated feature film. All right, our next category today is for Best Actress in a Supporting Role. Our nominees are Angela Bassett for Black Panther: Wakanda Forever, Hong Chow, The Whale, Carrie Condon, The Banshees of Inisherin, Jamie Lee Curtis, Everything Everywhere All at Once, and Stephanie Hsu, Everything Everywhere All at Once. Out of all our nominees, my pick is Angela Bassett for Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. absolutely amazing in this role, as all these women were. But as always, gotta go with the gut. I just don't see any chance of her losing this nomination. I could be wrong, but I just don't see it. Angela Bassett, definitely my pick for Best Actress in a Supporting Role for this year's Oscars. All right, and switching gears to Best Actor in a Supporting Role now. Our nominees are Brendan Gleeson for The Banshees of Inisherin, Brian Tyree Henry for Causeway, Judd Hirsch for The Fablemans, Barry Keoghan, The Banshees of Inisherin, and Ki-Hu Kwan for Everything Everywhere All at Once. Amazing nominations, all amazing performances as well. Out of all these, if I have to pick, I'm going to go with Ki-Hu Kwan for Everything Everywhere All at Once. Just amazing and wonderful to see his transcendence back into the limelight, and much deserved. The fact that this gentleman was not cast in major roles for the past 20 to 30 years is unbelievable. It's unfathomable, but so wonderful to see him get this nomination. And I definitely think that he will take home the Oscar when all is said and done at the end of the night. Ki-Hu Kwan, my pick for Best Actor in a Supporting Role for his performance in Everything Everywhere All at Once. All right, next categories for Best Actress in a Leading Role. This year's nominees are Cate Blanchett for Tar, Ana de Armas in Blonde, Andrea Riseborough, To Leslie, Michelle Williams, The Fablemans, Michelle Yeoh, Everything Everywhere All at Once. Out of all the nominees, my pick for Best Actress in a Leading Role is Michelle Yeoh. I absolutely was floored by her performance. All these performances were fantastic. Blonde, one of my least favorite films of the year by far, but that's not to say that Ana de Armas is not a wonderful actress. In terms of all these performances, though, I mean, Michelle Williams, fantastic. The fact that, I must say also, the fact that Danielle DeWeiler never got a nomination for her performance until, if she was on this list, I probably would have picked her, to be honest. She would probably be my pick. But with that being said, with her being off this list, came down to Cate Blanchett, Michelle Yeoh. As wonderful as Cate Blanchett's performance was, personally, wasn't the biggest fan of Tar, and so that being said, I got to go with my gut and my personal favorite choice here. Just a wonderful, masterful performance in Everything Everywhere All at Once. If you have not seen this film already and seen her performance, do so immediately. Highly recommend. Cannot go wrong. All right, next category today is for Best Actor in a Leading Role. Our nominees are Austin Butler in Elvis, Colin Farrell, The Banshees of Inisherin, Brendan Fraser, The Whale, Paul Mescal, After Sun, Bill Nye, Living. Again, all wonderful films, all wonderful performances. At the end of the day, there can only be one that wins. And my pick to win, and I hope and pray that I am right, is Brendan Fraser for The Whale. I hope and pray that Brendan Fraser takes home the Oscar. I am rooting for this man to succeed so much, and I think I speak for many, many millions of people around the world that hope to see him become victorious at the end of the night. And again, the same with Ki-Hu Kwan and many others that are deserving of these awards, but specifically those two gentlemen, just from what they've been through in their lives respectively. A lot of obstacles for both of them as well that they've had to endure and get through. But the fact that Brendan Fraser and Ki-Hu Kwan both find themselves on verge of being the ones on the podium, on the stage in front of the world, holding up the Academy Award, it's wonderful. And hopefully their stories both culminate in a happy ending because they both deserve it. So with that being said, Brendan Fraser, my pick to be this year's Best Actor in a Leading Role. All right, second to last category here, we have Best Director. This year's nominees for Best Director are Martin McDonagh, The Banshees of Inisherin, Everything Everywhere All at Once, Daniel Kwan and Daniel Scheinert, Steven Spielberg, The Fabelmans, Todd Field, Tar, and Ruben Ostlund, Triangle of Sadness. Out of all the nominees, my pick for this year's Best Director is Martin McDonagh, The Banshees of Inisherin. I definitely think this year's dark horse in the Academy Awards ceremony will be The Banshees of Inisherin. That's my gut going with it, and I think Martin McDonagh takes home the Best Director. And our final category today for Best Picture, we have All Quiet on the Western Front, Avatar, The Way of Water, The Banshees of Inisherin, Elvis, Everything Everywhere All at Once, The Fabelmans, Tar, Top Gun Maverick, Triangle of Sadness, and Women Talking. Out of all the nominees for this year's Academy Awards, my pick to take home the Oscar for Best Picture is The Banshees of Inisherin. Now, like I said, I definitely think that The Banshees of Inisherin will be this year's dark horse and sweep in the Oscars. This category could definitely come down to any one of these films, specifically Everything Everywhere All at Once, The Fabelmans, Top Gun Maverick. A lot of these films could wind up being the Best Picture winner. Ultimately, I think The Banshees of Inisherin will be this year's dark horse, and so going with my gut, and it's my pick this year to take home the Oscar as the Best Picture winner. As always, though, curious to know what your thoughts are. Do you think The Banshees of Inisherin will be this year's dark horse? If not, which film do you think will be? As always, be sure to write to me. Let me know what your thoughts are. I will be live tweeting during this year's Academy Awards ceremony. Be sure to write to me on Twitter and Instagram as well. And also be sure to follow us on Twitter and Instagram, and also subscribe to our YouTube page. After that, you'll be eligible to win a prize for a BMuz Reviews Pick'em. The link for the contest can be found in the description of this podcast, as well as on our social pages. Deadline to submit your entry into our contest is Sunday, March 12th at 7:59 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thank you so much for tuning in to this special episode of the BMuz Reviews podcast. Be sure to tune in to the 95th Academy Awards ceremony live this Sunday, March 12th at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we'll be back with a new episode in just a few weeks. Thanks so much for tuning in.
And that just about wraps up this installment of the BMuz Reviews podcast. I'm your host, Brandon Musica. Be sure to follow us on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter at BMuz Reviews, and be sure to listen every week on Spotify, Anchor, Google Podcasts, and all other streaming platforms. If you're watching on YouTube, be sure to like, leave a comment, subscribe, and hit the bell icon to receive notifications that inform you exactly when our podcast and all other videos are out. And as mentioned, be sure to visit our website, www.musicaprojects.com. There you'll find all the links to our social pages, links to our latest podcast episodes, and also be able to read our latest blog posts as well. We'll be with a new episode of the BMuz Reviews podcast, so stay tuned for more. And as always, in case I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.
Soon after you leave, so make it quick.